When we talk about IKEA, one of the first things that pops in the mind is, of course, their famous meatballs. The other thing that probably pops on your mind is assemble instructions. But no, today we are not going to talk about food nor assembly of the furniture. Instead, we are going to talk about two new IKEA smart home devices. And we'll start in a couple of seconds. This is not a sponsored video, IKEA hasn't paid me anything or hasn't given me any free meals. And of course the devices were not sent by IKEA, but I bought them myself. But why IKEA? Last 4-5 years, ever since the IKEA released the TRETAKT ecosystem, smart home ecosystem, IKEA has entered the smart home market. And I must admit that my home has a lot of IKEA devices. Most of them are either remotes or the lights that are paired with those remotes. Couple of months ago, we looked at two other sensors that were also recently released by IKEA, and those are door window sensor and the motion sensor. While out of box they worked perfectly with Zigbee to MQTT, ZHA had some issues. But that was also fixed with the latest versions of the ZHA. Now both of those devices, door and window sensor and of course the motion sensor, are working exactly the same both in Zigbee to MQTT and inside ZHA. Today we will be looking at two new devices. Badring, water leaking sensor or sensor that detects if there is any water leak, and TRETAKT, which is actually a plug that you can then also bind with the remote control. I got myself both of those devices in the local IKEA, but of course the design or the socket of the plug will depend on country where you live. Mine is Shuko. Packing or boxes of the devices are pretty simple and they are standard IKEA boxes. Inside, besides the device, you also receive manual. If you buy a leak detection sensor, the manual will actually not be a manual. Manual will be just a regulatory information, and there is a QR code that if you scan will then guide you to the manual on the internet. But if you buy the power plug, of course in the box besides the plug itself there are a couple of manuals, and there is actually one real manual that will tell you how to factory reset device, how to bind it with the remote, etc, etc. First, let's start with the water leak sensor. The box of the device is very nice design, and the lid has some openings that are protected by the mesh. Under the mesh, when you open up the lid, there is a speaker for the alarm, LED that you can see also through the case, and of course the pairing button and the spot where you need to insert the AAA battery. This device has been made so it works with the rechargeable batteries. This is not the case with all Zigbee devices. Some Zigbee devices cannot work on rechargeable batteries, but it's really awesome to see that all the latest IKEA devices have been designed with the recycling batteries in mind. For example, door window sensor, motion sensor, and then again this one, leak sensor. After you insert the battery, you will need to start the pairing process. And you start the pairing process by pushing the button 4 times. This device can be paired with a lot of systems, but I do not have new Dirigera system from the IKEA. Instead, I will be pairing it with Home Assistant by using both ZHA and Zigbee to MQTT. On the back side of the device, you can see two exposed metal contacts, and those metal contacts are actually what is triggering the water leak detection. When the water makes contact between those two exposed metal pads, the alarm will start beeping, and of course it will trigger something whatever you do in your smart home. The design of the device is also very similar, for example, to this Aqara one, and this Aqara one I have been using for the last 3 or 4 years. The device is currently on the dry, and if I add the water, it will start beeping. So let's start by adding it to our Home Assistant. First, we'll try with the Zigbee to MQTT. In your Home Assistant, permit join, and then on the IKEA device, press the button 4 times. The light on the device should slowly fade in and fade out, and you should see it added to Zigbee to MQTT. And here it is. We have friendly name, description, last seen, availability. This is of course add device. It has been correctly recognized as Badring water leakage sensor, IKEA of Sweden, supported device, firmware version, model. When you click, it will open Zigbee to MQTT page, battery state, and is the interview completed. If we go to exposes, we can see that we have information if there is a water leak or no. When water leak is detected, it will change state for water leak to leaking from clear. And when it stops, it will go back to clear. In Home Assistant we have 4 entities: Update sensor that will show us if there is a newer version available, battery state that will show us of course the state of the battery, and the binary sensor that will be triggered to wet state if the moisture is detected or water leak detected. And if you want to create a simple automation in Home Assistant, you could create something like this. For example, this Badring moisture. This is the binary sensor. If it changes from any state to wet state, then you trigger something. It can be either push notification or push plus text-to-speech notification, stop the water if you have automatic water valves, etc. etc. Now let's see how it works with ZHA. In ZHA, press on Add New Device and start the pairing process on the Badring sensor by clicking the button 4 times. And that's it. Select an area, for example, kitchen, and you should be good to go. Same as with Zigbee to MQTT, we have moisture sensor or leak sensor that is either dry or wet. We have information about the firmware, is it up to date or if there is a newer version. Then we have information about the battery, identify, and we have two hidden entities, LQI and RSSI. These two can be used to detect the signal quality. Same as with Zigbee to MQTT, you can use it now in your Home Assistant automations. Now let's look at the power plug. This is the new version of the power plug. The older version, which I also use at my home, I initially bought them to extend the network of my Zigbee to MQTT network. As routers, well, the design of the new device is a bit different than the previous one. The device itself is a bit smaller, but also a bit fatter. It features a large button that can be used to turn the device on and off. It has a pairing button instead of the needle that you had to use previously, plus it has much smaller LED, which is a nice thing because some people do not like when the LEDs on those devices are too bright. In the box with the device you get manual, and this time it's a real manual where you can actually read how to configure the device. I didn't buy the pack, there is a pack where you can buy this plug already bound together with the remote. But even if you do not buy the pack with the remote, you can later on get a remote from IKEA and then directly pair it. Why is this a good thing? Because if you pair directly remote to the plug, even when the hub is down, you will be able to control it by the remote. The plug itself also has a key protection. If you want to stuck a screwdriver in one of the sockets, you will not be able because there is a protection. If you want to pair the device, and we will later on pair it with both Zigbee to MQTT, but also ZHA, you need some pointy thing to push the button. You need to press and keep pushing the button for at least 5 seconds. So let's get started with adding it to Zigbee to MQTT. In Zigbee to MQTT, click on Permit Join, plug in this plug to a socket, and press the button for 5 seconds. The pairing process should start, and in a couple of seconds we should see the device inside Home Assistant. If we click on the device, we can see the device is fully supported. We can change the name, update Home Assistant Entity ID, rename the device, but also note that this device, like the previous version of this device, is also router. That means that it cannot just be used as a device to control something, but it can also extend your network. In Exposes, we see that it exposes state, off and on state. You can set power and behavior to be off, on, toggle or previous state. You can click Identify and we see link quality. In Home Assistant we can see that we have 4 new entities. One is the switch itself where we can turn it on and off. We have information if there is a newer version of firmware available or not. And also we have information about the power on state, where once again we can select either previous, toggle, on or off. And as such, it is already available in Home Assistant, so now you can use it inside your automations. And in automations, it can be used as any other normal switch. But for example, what if you hook it to a dumb light? Then you can also convert it from switch to virtual light. And instead of having a switch here, you will have a light entity. By the way, I didn't mention the power rating. This device can support up to 3600 watts, 3600 and something, or 16 amps. That means that you are good to go to use this even with the high amp requirement devices. Let's now see how it works with ZHA. Let's click on Add Device, and once again let's start the pairing process. Interview has started, and the device is ready to use. Select an area, and we are good to go. In ZHA, same as with Zigbee to MQTT, we have a switch where you can control the state, turn it on and off. If you use the button, you can see that the state is updated by the button itself. And that means that if somebody is using button directly on the device itself, it will update the state in Home Assistant, so the states will be always synced. Then we have information about the firmware, power on default state, same as Zigbee to MQTT, diagnostics with LQI and RSSI. There are 3 additional entities that unfortunately I cannot tell you what they are. I have my doubts what they can be, but I'm not sure because I don't see how they correlate with the plain switch. If this would be light, I would understand. There is on level, which you are able to set to something. Since this is not a light, I'm not sure if this is a brightness or if this should be brightness. Then we have on-off transition, 3 seconds for example, which again I would say that this is more for a light than for a switch, and start up current, which I don't believe that this device is able to change the current. But if we compare it to the other devices the last time we tried, the door window sensor and also the motion sensor, at least this time we have both devices working out of box with ZHA. If we compare this device to other Zigbee power plugs on the market, this device is really beefy. It supports up to 16 apps, it works with both ZHA and Zigbee to MQTT, and in any country, any city where the IKEA has shops, you can go there and buy them, which is a plus. The negative side of this device is something that I don't even think IKEA is considering, and that is power monitoring. No, this device unfortunately is not able to help you with the power monitoring. So you are on your own there. There is a way on how you can track power with this device and also devices that are hooked to this one by using PowerCalc. I made video on that and it will probably be linked up here. But yeah, out of box you will not unfortunately be able to track the power usage. The question is the 10 euros for water leak detector and currently 7 euros for this power plug goodbye? In my opinion, yes. First of all, this device is ready available. IKEA is present in a lot of countries, it has shops in a lot of cities, and probably you have IKEA somewhere near you. If yes, then it's probably much easier for you to get the device locally than to order it somewhere and wait for delivery. On the other hand, the negative side for this device is unfortunately this device doesn't have power monitoring. I hope that you did find this video useful, and if you did, don't forget to click the like button down below. It really means a lot, and it also says to YouTube that this video is good and that more people should see it. But also I would like to hear your thoughts on this IKEA leak sensor and also the smart plug. Do you already have them? Do you intend to buy them? Why would you not buy them, or why would you buy them? And as always, before I end up the video, I want to thank all those wonderful people that are supporting me and that have become YouTube channel members. Thank you all for all of your support. But let's not forget each and every one of you who has watched, liked, commented and shared my videos. Thank you. If you too want to support the channel, you can do so by clicking the join button down below and becoming a YouTube channel member for only 2 euros or $2 per month. Or you can go to my merchandise store and get something there. Last but not least, as always, you can send me super thanks, and I will be super thankful for that. I'll be seeing you next time. Until then, bye bye and have fun.